Harmonics, and welcome to another edition of Innovation in Agriculture. And in this episode, I just wanted, it's a Friday, it's kind of warm here. It's in Florida, middle of summertime. Most of the crops going up here in the United States and in the Northern Hemisphere is already really rolling at this point. And we're already seeing some pretty good immediate results from what we're doing, what we set up early this year. And we're, of course, following up with all of our farmers on a regular basis. And we'll keep you posted on those results. But really, for today's episode, I just wanted to kind of ask you guys a little bit for your feedback. What kinds of innovations are you guys excited about? Because I'll be honest with you. I when I first started with this company 6 years ago, I didn't really know that much about farming. I was not a farmer myself. I both of my grandparents were farmers, but I didn't necessarily join in their footsteps as a farmer. But I always respected farming. I visited farms for my grandparents and stuff as a kid, and I always loved it. But in the last 6 years, I really got to know everything I know about agriculture, really from having conversations with people. I really got my education in farming the way I think most farmers do, which is, put your boots on the ground, roll your sleeves up, talk to people, get information, gather the data, and then obviously apply and see what works. And literally at this point, I think I've talked to probably well over 3,000 farmers around the world. I've talked to farmers in South Africa. I've talked to farmers in India. I've talked to farmers in Sri Lanka. I've talked to farmers in Australia and New Zealand and all over the world, South America, Mexico, here in the United States, Canada. I mean, literally, I think probably I have at least half of the countries of the world that I've spoken with a farmer in those countries. And we have over 36 countries already on board. So that time that I've spent with these farmers is very well spent. And of course, we have a lot more farmers that are going to be jumping on board, and we'll have a lot more flags planted around the world as well. But I really want to know from you guys and from your perspective, what kinds of innovations in agriculture are you most excited about? Depending on where you are in that spectrum, whether you're an innovative farmer or more of an early adopter that kind of wants to wait and see a few people use it, or maybe you're a little bit more conservative and you want to see lots of results in university trials and those types of things, and you're that kind of guy. I'm really kind of just interested to find out what kinds of innovations are you guys interested in? Are you guys really looking for technological stuff or equipment-based innovation, like, for example, new harvesters or new drone technology or new watering systems, those types of things? Are you looking for more chemical type things like new types of fertilizers or new things that are going to be more efficient inputs? Are you guys looking more on the processing side? Like, how do you actually process things in a better way so that your labor costs might decrease, right? What kinds of things are you really looking for in innovation, and what kinds of things are you excited about? We're talking to a few farmers that are going to be starting with us here very shortly, and their big thing is soil health. Their real issue and their real interest is soil health. In fact, every time I try to steer the conversation into plant health and yield and input costs, they always bring me back to the soil, and I thought that was so fascinating because in one way, they're not interested in what everybody else is interested in. They understand, and they believe, as I believe, that if you take care of the soil and you really make the soil healthy, then that the soil is going to take care of you going forward, right? And so they're really into stuff like no-till. They're into stuff like reducing their chemical usage, or into stuff like regenerative farming and planting cover crops, these types of things, right? So they're super interested in microbial activity and microbial inputs, right? And biostimulants and these types of things. So they're super interested in the soil side. And of course, our technology, as I've explained many times, really improves microbial health, microbial function, the metabolism of those microbes, the single-celled bacteria and other organisms in the soil that are responsible for so much of the hard work that nature does to produce plants. The interesting thing about our technology and what we're doing is it's a very innovative, very technical type of a technology. And every time I've tried to explain it on a broad system like here, I always get kind of scratches and confusion, that kind of stuff. I had some people make fun of me on some of my Facebook posts, like, hey, I talked to this guy and he's talking about frequencies and he's talking about singing to your plants. I'm like, I didn't say anything about singing to your plants. But when you get into something that's highly technical and highly scientific and highly, deep dive, that kind of stuff, I think sometimes you lose people, and believe me, I fall victim to it also. So I know how that goes. And for the guys out there who made those comments, I apologize for not explaining it better. I do my best to try to bridge that gap between the hyper technical, super scientific, methodology that we're using, and break it down on a level that the average everyday guy can understand. You know, and so if I do a good job of that, thank you so much for helping me out with that. But if I don't do a good job, I apologize. But the interesting thing is, talking to these guys about soil health. Soil health is a big issue, especially, of course, now that we're in a kind of a crisis situation, we're looking at the high cost of fertilizer, high cost of inputs. As they say, necessity is the mother of invention. So a lot of farmers are paying a lot more attention to soil science and to biostimulants and microbes and these types of things. But our work with microbes is really based upon the same thing that we're doing for plants. We looked at microbial activity. Now, microbes are just essentially single-celled organisms. They're very small, obviously. They're bacteria, they're small fungi, they're small little organisms that are literally a single-cell organisms or a few cells. Are not very complicated, but they serve a tremendously important role in nature, right? So if we look at the fact that plants have been around on this planet for hundreds of millions of years, right? Human beings have been around for about what 10,000, 30,000, depending on how you feel. But let's say anywhere between 4,000 and 10,000, maybe 30,000 years, human beings have been on this earth, right? So plants have predated us on this planet by hundreds of millions of years, right? They've been around a lot longer than we have, and a lot longer than fertilization, a lot longer than chemical nitrogen or manure or all these other things. So we ask ourselves the question: how were plants able to thrive, and how does nature produce a lot of plant life? Because there was a lot more plant life before humans came around, and those plants didn't have chemical-based nitrogen or phosphorus, other things. So how do they actually get their nutrition in nature? And the answer to that is, of course, microbial activity in the soil, that whole cycle of nature, right? Where plants die and they have organic matter, and the nitrogen and other organic matter gets tilled into the soil through just animals eating it, or worms breaking it down, bacteria and microbes and viruses and things breaking down that material, and then turning it into compost, which of course next generation of plants use for the next generation. That's how that cycle of life works. But microbial activity in the soil is one of the key components, and it does the most in terms of carbon sequestration. So we talk to all these environmentalists around the world that are banging the drum for more environmental friendly solutions and environmental friendly farms. Microbes will help with that. They will help sequester more carbon. You look at the nitric oxide and nitrous gases, greenhouse gases from nitrogen use. The microbes in the soil will help you reduce that need for that chemical nitrogen, and they will produce nitrogen. They will pull it out of the air, literally, and turn it into a forms that plants can use. And they can also break it down in other ways, like once the plant's already used it, they can break down nitrogen compounds so that they stay in the soil. They don't go out into the air and create greenhouse gases. You know, we look at how do we increase yield, how do we improve the efficiency of plants, and of course, microbial functions is incredibly important. So when I talk to soil scientists and regenerative farmers, I get a lot of excitement in that innovation in agriculture. Innovation is a fancy word for saying the evolution of practices to better and better methods and ways of doing things, right? That's the simplicity of it. So microbials and biostimulants are sort of an innovation that's been around for the last 20 years, but it's really just kind of getting steam, right? It's getting people more and more pay attention to it now. And even though our system does not add new microbes to the soil the way most biostimulant vendors would do, our system is making those microbes much more efficient and much more healthy and reproductive so that they can actually do what they're doing more efficiently. And that's a tremendous innovation for farming. And we're almost like a support mechanism for other innovations, right? You can look at irrigation systems and automated irrigation systems that allow us to water our crops with using less water than if we just spray for 24 or 36 hours at a time, right? In fact, we have one of our farmers in California is going to be doing some experiments where he knows he's going to save about 30 or 40% of the water that he's using on his citrus grove. He's already done it on a section of his farm, and he knows with our technology, this is going to boost that method. So he's already got a method to reduce water usage, but our system is going to boost that. It's going to make plants even more efficient than they otherwise would be. It's going to make the soil more efficient than it otherwise would be. So it's going to help that. So the Kindanasi, we call it the crop booster because it does boost crops and boost yields. But in a lot of ways, the crop booster that we have is really a boost to all these other innovations. You look at drone tech, you look at irrigation technologies, you look at new kinds of microbial additions and soil amendments and these types of things. Our system supports all of these things. So we are not an innovation that's working against other innovations. We're working with them. In fact, we want to work with some of these innovations because we want to help farmers grow healthier. We want to help reduce chemical usage, create a more organic, friendly, or at least a healthier type of food source for everybody. And because of the way our system is designed, is a systemic approach. We're not just looking at one key small component of this whole system. We want to improve the entire system so that it does absorb nitrogen more efficiently. It does utilize oxygen and carbon dioxide more efficiently. It does utilize water and other nutrients more efficiently. When you have a system that works efficiently, then you find you can use quite a bit less fertilizer, quite a bit less inputs, and still get a really good quality crop. So if you guys are interested in seeing what our technology can do, I urge you to give me a call, 727-324-6750. We are here most days, and we're definitely here during the week where we can work with you to help you improve your farm, to make your farm more efficient. That is the key. You can be more efficient at what you're doing, you're going to improve your situation no matter what. If you're just chasing after solutions to problems, like for example, fertilizer right now is extremely expensive. If you're just trying to chase a solution to that problem, okay, you may solve that problem, but what happens when fertilizer goes back down in a year or 2 years from now, right? What happens then? Now you have a solution, but it's called outpoint correct, right? You're correcting problems as they come up, and you're not actually moving ahead of the game. You're kind of just reacting to things. We want to help farmers become more proactive and more causative on how they run their operation so that they can be more efficient and more profitable and more innovative and move their needle forward and get much better results over time. The best thing about our technology is we already know that it works. We already know that you're going to get amazing results with it. So we have a money back guarantee. I mean, we've never had a farm really ask for their money back. I think we may have one guy who mentioned a few things, and we're working with him on actually solving the problem that he was having, as opposed to giving his money back. But if it turns out that we need to do that, that's totally fine. I mean, one guy out of 350 is a pretty good track record for any company. So we look forward to working with you. We look forward to showing you guys what we can do to help you with your farm. And again, the best part of this is we're just making the entire system of farming more efficient. And when you can do that, you're going to set yourself up for a lot of success in the future. You're going to be way ahead of the game. And that's really, I guess, the last point I'll make here is in terms of innovation in agriculture, there's people have different reactions to change and progress and innovations, right? Some people embrace it and they just jump all over it. Some people embrace it, but they're a little more slowly, and some people like to wait and see and let other people use it and prove that it works and everything else. That's the same in any industry. It's not just farmers, but every industry is like that. You look at the way the iPod and the iPhone came out. You look at the way other types of technologies kind of came about. The cell phone in general, or even the internet. All these different things didn't just. We tend to think that these things just came online, and they snapped their fingers and everybody had one. Everybody was using the internet. The internet took about 5 years from the time it was launched before people started really using it. And if you're old enough to remember those old modems with the telephones, you'll know why it didn't jump off real quick. But in any case, guys, if you guys really want to be more innovative, if you're tired of complaining about problems and you want to be proactive and causative and do something about them, if you want to set yourself up for success not only this season but in next season and every season coming forward, then the catchword that you have to think with is, how do I make my operation more efficient? How do I get more efficient with how I use my inputs, how I use my water, how I use my seeds, and how I plant and how I run my operation? Because the more efficient you can get your operation, the more profitable you be. It's almost impossible to get more efficient and still not be more profitable. I mean, you can get more yield and still not be profitable. You can reduce your input costs and still not be profitable. But if you get more efficient and can handle both of those different factors at the same time, you will be more profitable. And with all the farmers that are using Crop Booster by Kim Inasi, they're getting a lot more profitable. In fact, I'm seeing 10, 20, 30 times return on investment with a lot of crops. So if you want to be one of those farmers and you want to jump ahead of the game and jump ahead of the class and get in front of all these other guys that would rather wait and would rather not take advantage of opportunities when they have it, then jump on board. Give us a call and let's work together to help you become part of the future of farming today. Hope to hear from you guys very soon. We'll have a great weekend and we'll